Hey beautiful people, Ryan Hamer here. Today, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. In this video, we're going to be talking about what if my credit score goes down? What if your credit score goes down? Everybody's always worried about that. Now, you got to understand that it's like credit scores, there's ebb and flow. It fluctuates. It goes up and it goes down, and sometimes it's not because you have a collection item on your credit bureau report. Relax. Remember, it's a snapshot of your transactions for the month, of where you stand, what your credit profile looks like, and there are different things that go into the algorithm that determine what your credit score is going to be, what it should be, or what have you. It's not always that something is wrong. You might have used your credit card a little bit more this month. You might have dipped into your line of credit a little bit more this month. You may, unfortunately, have missed a payment on a credit card, or you might be carrying a high balance on that credit card. So that can all contribute to why your credit score is lower this month. Also, there could be a new collection items there, or there could be a collection item that was removed or dropped off. That will definitely cause your credit score to fluctuate, for sure. And also, you might have paid your credit card off, or you might have made a larger payment on your line of credit or what have you, and it has not reflected. Because sometimes you might have a closing statement date closer towards the end of the month, or maybe at the beginning of the next month. So what's going to happen is it's not going to be reflected on the update of the bureau. So a lot of times the bureau updates on the first of the month, and then what's going to happen is any major changes that you might have made throughout the month or up until that point or right after that point, it's not going to reflect. So that's another thing that you have to keep in mind. So if you were carrying a high balance on a line of credit or a credit card, that's another factor. Utilization will also contribute to your score dropping, or a fluctuation in your credit score. If you're carrying a high balance and then suddenly you make a large payment to bring that balance down, that might not necessarily be reflected if you're doing it after the first of the month. It'll be reflected eventually, but you're not going to see it. You might not necessarily see it right away. What if you gotten rid of a collection item, you paid it off, or you negotiated, or whatever the case may be, you're still waiting on the collection company to communicate with the credit bureau and the credit bureau to update your file. And you're waiting on two different entities. So you're completely powerless to expedite this, right? You can't rush the process. And I tell people all the time, think about it like this. Like, you're sending, especially if you're doing dispute letters and stuff like that, you're sending in letters to the credit bureau. So you register the letter, you send it to the mail, it gets to the credit bureau. The credit bureau sits on it. Sometimes they send you acknowledgement of receipt of said letter, and then they put it in a different pile, and then they end up communicating with the creditor, and the creditor says yay or nay, and then all this is a process, and it takes time. So that's why when we say, if you write a letter to the credit bureau, you might not necessarily get action right away. It might take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, or it might take a couple of letters back and forth to prod them along. And then also, when it comes to changes being made, narratives are made on one end, but depending on what you're doing, right? So for example, if you decided to just pay off the item and not negotiate anything, then what happens is the creditor or collection agency is just going to say, yeah, this item is paid. And so in the collection section of your credit bureau report, it's just going to show the item is paid. It's not going to be removed. You just negotiated to pay the item. And so they'll say paid off, or there'll be a zero balance owing. In one sense, as we know, that's good for you because it's not going to show that you're owing a balance. But when you pay it, you might as well owe a balance because it's like the same thing. So I always say it's like you're a dog serving two masters insofar as that, yes, you've satisfied the creditor, the original creditor, you've satisfied the collection agency that's coming after you, but the bureau still has the item there as, oh, well, he did this, he defaulted, or he was late, or he never paid. and then it went to collections. So that those narratives, those negative narratives, are still going to be playing a part into the tanking of your credit score. It's still going to be pulling your credit score down. They're still going to be there. Yeah, it's going to show it's paid. It's not necessarily outstanding. However, it's still there. So you still have a black eye, right? Unless it's completely removed, that's a different thing. When you completely get an item removed from your credit bureau report, then that will cause your credit score to skyrocket. Now, as I said, getting items removed from your credit bureau report, I've done quite a few videos on that. It's not always possible, but it's always worth the try. It's always worth the effort to put in to try to get something removed from your credit bureau report, negotiating a lower settlement amount or what have you, so you can at least pay it off, and negotiate to try and get the item taken off your credit bureau report. They always say they can't do it, but you know, sometimes it takes a little bit of prodding, a little bit of pulling, depending on the person that you have, depending on the debt. Like, there's so many factors that go into play. It depends on the debt, depends on how much the debt is, depends on how old the debt is, right? So these items contribute to your credit score. These items contribute to whether you can actually get an item off of your credit score, and or if you can get the item off of your credit score, it will change, your credit report rather, it will change your score. So please keep that in mind. And a lot of people get really antsy when they see their credit score change, and they don't know why. And there are quite a number of reasons as to why your credit score can change throughout the month. Number of inquiries, your credit history, and remember, credit history is also present history, if you will. So anything that happens with your credit cards or your line of credit currently will affect and be lumped into that credit history. So if you're not paying on time, or if you have a huge utilization, remember, your revolving credit cards and lines of credit have a huge contributing factor to your credit score. So the lower those items are, the lower your utilization on credit cards and lines of credit can be. The lower the utilization, the better off you'll be, because you're not using the maximum capacity of your lines of available credit. And that will definitely bring down your score, because it'll look like, hey, well, he's got $50,000 worth of available credit that he or she can be using, and they're not using it. So that's good. Your utilization is lower. And so I always talk about this commercial, but two old men, where they're sitting down, where the banks will be more apt to lend you money if you act like you don't need it, or if you look like you don't need it. So utilization is key. Keeping that low between 20 to 30% or lower if you can, will definitely do you wonders, and your credit score will be in tip-top shape if that's the case, and you have no collection items. You'll be in good form. Hopefully you got some value out of this video. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Please feel free to like, share, and comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching, and have a great one.